So hello,
Yes.
everyone, and welcome to Emulating Program Managers with GenAI, Challenges and Opportunities. I'm Jim Recker, VP of Sales at Tweelin. We are thrilled to have you all with us today for what promises to be an insightful session. I'm really looking forward to it. So whether you're here to expand your knowledge or gain practical insight, we aim to provide valuable content and foster meaningful discussions. So what that means is throughout the webinar, we encourage active participations and questions from the audience. So what we did is we turned on the Q&A feature, and we encourage you to not hesitate to use that feature to engage our speaker and fellow attendees. So let's embark on this journey of discovery together, and I'll now hand it over to my esteemed colleague, Dario DeSantis, CEO and founder of Tweelin, to kick things off. Dario, over to you.
Thank you, Jim, and thanks everyone. It's an immense pleasure having you all here and share with you some wisdom and some learnings that we've been able to achieve recently. Today, we will not talk about technology details, rather product strategy. But first, let me introduce myself quickly. Why am I qualified to share some wisdom with you today? I have 20 years of experience, 16 of which in program product management roles focused on AI, IoT, collaboration. And I spent 7 years at Cisco working on WebEx products from intelligent devices, including the first conferencing device with WebEx Assistant in it, to leading the strategic integrations team. So I owned a portfolio of integrations, including Salesforce, ServiceNow, many others. And in 2021, I co-founded Tweelin with a few ex-Cisco folks. And with my team, we built the first and still only digital serendipity solution for enterprise collaboration currently on the market. Now, we're done with the intros, and let's delve into the topic for today. I'm sure you notice that startups using generative AI are growing like mushrooms. According to Forbes, there are already 1,000 plus startups leveraging GPT today in the world. And these companies are defined, well, most of these companies are defined as GPT wrappers, basically adding a UI layer and workflows around GPT to fulfill a specific use case. As a consequence of this trend, a huge wave of value is hitting any industry. And founders are asking themselves a key question. How can this startup differentiate and establish a sustainable competitive advantage in this overcrowded environment? Now, despite all its hallucinations, we know that generative AI is very good at making sense of things, but it can't really take action. And this is totally expected, by the way, as these models are really provided as platform as a service by large tech giants that tend not to build solutions outside of their core business. For instance, today, ChatGPT is amazing at generating content for a social media manager, but it's far from being the social media manager. So, what should we do to fill the gap and bring automation and value to the next level so that ChatGPT will be able to play the role of a social media manager? Now, intuitively, you could say we take a scaffolding plus attaching limbs and sensing organs to the brain, which is GPT, and it seems to be the right thing to do. Now, the brain is your generative AI. Your application becomes the body scaffolding. A set of connectors to external data sources are the limbs and the sensing organs. Now, will you be able to establish a sustainable competitive advantage based on this application architecture? Well, generative AI is available to anyone. So are the APIs to connect to third-party apps and platforms that you can use for creating your limbs. You may argue that the secret sauce lies in the ability to combine your proprietary workflows with generative AI prompts. Perhaps that works in the short term. However, it's enough to open TikTok to see an avalanche of prompting best practices that are already leveling the playing field. In other words, these type of applications can be easily replicated. Now, what if we add our unique intelligence to limbs and sensing organs? Well, that is a secret sauce with a more complex recipe. Right now, our competition has a harder time catching up, and our execution capabilities are more defensible. We can patent our core technology, for instance, and now we have IP protection on that. I would like to illustrate these concepts with a concrete example, which is kind of the topic of the day. Imagine you want to build a virtual program manager using generative AI as the component to make sense of the organizations and the program context. Now, I tried that. I went to ChatGPT 4.0 and I fed it a list of team members with their skills, a detailed program description, and the program goals. And ChatGPT did a phenomenal job generating a work breakdown structure with level of efforts. It assigned the tasks to the right members based on their skills. It identified dependencies among the tasks, and it determined the critical path of that project. Mind-blowing as always. However, when I asked GPT to execute the plan, it's expected that it provided a very interesting answer that you'll find in an article on this topic in our Tweelin blog. I reported the entire answer. I summarized the salient aspects of that answer in these 5 limitations you see in the list, which can be further summarized as: I don't have information to manage the program over time, and I'm not able to expedite it. So I need a human program manager to do so. However, don't despair, GPT. There's something we can do to help you. Okay. The first 3 limitations, checking progress, understanding problems, and adapting the plan over time, are relatively easy to overcome. You can create a wrapper application full of prompt engineering, and you plug in all the relevant corporate tools, a CRM, an ERP, the HR management system, the project tools, your collaboration tools. And then you periodically and programmatically feed the updates to GPT through the API, GPT or any other language model you want to use through the API, and voila, you updated the plan. Everyone can do that, okay? However, when you look at the last 2 limitations, the ability to interact with team members and expedite programs, that's where things get interesting. And there are unprecedented opportunities. Because program managers have a very tough job. They are part of a matrix organization, likely working in a hybrid fashion with some remote people, with complex programs involving many always busy subject matter experts, each assigned or divided among several of these programs. And program managers are constantly negotiating earlier calendar slots with these very busy program stakeholders to make sure that the tasks that matter get executed along the critical path on time and on budget. And this complex world, keeping the program on time and on budget, is an art. And that requires a huge amount of soft skills that today can't be replaced by a machine yet. Now, you may think that the solution is leveraging a calendaring AI to optimize everyone's schedule, but that doesn't work because it doesn't negotiate with people to make things happen on time. And on the contrary, playing with the AI contributes to procrastinating tasks because the calendars of busy people are jam-packed all day, and that makes it impossible to find their short-term availability, especially if you think that we have a limited amount of slots, 16 slots of 30 minutes in a workday, and calendar assistants don't have enough context to negotiate the conflicts among people, which are then spread way in the future when the open slots in common are likely to be found. And this is why program management negotiations and rescheduling are a must. There's this constant waltzer going on. Now, designing a program management AI based on today's nightmare workflows and constraints seems not to work. Okay, it's necessarily asking ourselves, how will the program manager role or project manager, I'm using them interchangeably, and even how the role and even collaboration technologies change in the future given all these amazing technology advancements that we are all experiencing. Now, by doing that exercise, we have the opportunity not only to enable the replacement of a PM in the flesh, so sorry PMs, for the ones who are on this call, on this webinar, but also to get rid of calendar constraints and solve additional urgent industry problems, delivering more productivity. So what does all this mean? Well, I believe that the key is to detach the live team communications, the ones you need to make fast decisions in a program context, from the calendar. You need to detach them. Imagine a world where team communications happen without calendar nonsense and where the pace of a program isn't dictated by a predefined schedule. You leave room for AI to get people together and make decisions along the critical path of a project without calendar negotiation on an as needed basis versus as scheduled basis, which means without the much needed soft skills that you would require with today's way of working. Now, automation can be applied. And probably for the first time in project management history, project delivery can be accelerated rather than delayed by a ton of sludge and a course resolution, namely the traditional calendar slots of 30 minutes. And let me share with you how we, as Tweelin Inc., a startup in the space, have decided to embrace these challenges that we've seen so far, and when we're dealing with that. So we strongly believe that this calendarless vision is fundamental. We believe it's so much that we built a digital serendipity AI that allows users to make wishes to talk to other people. And based on all their devices' telemetry and calendar availability, it figures out the right moment and the right channel to have an impromptu conversation. This way, people don't have to waste time scheduling, rescheduling, texting back and forth, hey, when can we talk? Or call unsuccessfully, which calling success rate today is less than 20% during work hours. Now, our approach removes the need for earlier slot negotiation, because now the conversations happen serendipitously with 88% success rate and no calendaring involved. So you don't have anything to negotiate. You don't have an earlier slot to negotiate. You say, I want to talk to that person, and that happens. Now, if you remember the previous slide with the octopus, we can now kind of connect the dot, right? Our strategy to deal with with this AI boom is to build our own proprietary AI, which means it's defensible, that shifts the collaboration paradigm towards this calendarless world, removing the complexity and the reliance of soft skills to expedite and negotiate calendar slots, and leaving room for program automation. We are working to integrate this technology with generative AI, which we don't have to own. It's already a commodity. And we believe this will lead us to build the first virtual program manager solution that actually works, program manager solution. A solution that has the opportunity for the first time to shorten the development cycles of programs that today are always 30% late because they are constrained in a course resolution framework, and there's no opportunity to accelerate. We have started our strategy by supporting one-to-one interactions, which are easy to tackle, and removing the 37% of the meetings, the one-to-one scheduled meetings. And we will progressively expand our solution to impromptu conversations among more parties and outside the organizational boundary to include communications with your partners as well. Now, should you be interested in learning more about what we built, about Tweelin, please visit our website, tweelin.com. You can find some useful resources in there, like our value calculator, which will give you an idea of how much monetary efficiency your company would be able to achieve by removing internal scheduling. And with this, we're wanting to keep it nice and short, and I believe we've been able to achieve that in just 19 minutes. I'm extremely grateful for your precious time and attention, and I'm always available via email should you need anything from me. Now, I hand you over to Jim to see if we have any questions from the audience that we can address. And you are muted.
And it would help if I unmuted, correct. Thank you. Thank you, Dario. A lot of interesting ideas to consider, but the questions are actually very interesting as well. The top question, in my view, was, will a calendar be eventually useless?
So this is an interesting question to answer. I think that there's a certain size of gatherings that will always require scheduling. Now, if you're an all hands, an event like a concert or a 20 people meeting of some sort, a board meeting, right? So you need to schedule these. They have a cadence and etc. It will eventually be useless for internal communications. For, you have a team of people building a product, working on a project, and today you need to talk to someone, you make a call, that person doesn't answer because it's in a scheduled meeting. And now you go and check for availability, and he's blocked his calendar because now there's a lot of stuff to do and he needs some focus time. So for the next 2 days, the calendar is blocked. The first available slots in common are on Wednesday next week. And so the person who needs to talk now goes on instant messaging and starts messaging back and forth. Hey, I really need to talk to you tonight because we need to close this response for an RFQ for a certain customer, and I could use some time. And now the negotiation starts, and now you send a message and you wait there like a a dog pointing a prey there, right? And waiting for the presence to be green and waiting for an answer, and then the person, shuts down the computer, goes home, and now you're frustrated. And it's continuously hunting down people all day in large organizations, by the way. Small organizations, this is very manageable. But 250 employees or above, and the larger, the worse. This problem is really huge, and there's so much to gain. But it's a paradigm shift. Everybody defaults to scheduling today. But if you're able to educate the users and show them the value of doing things differently, then it will eventually pick up on a large scale, and calendars will not be the first thing you see in the morning, especially if your role is internal facing rather than external facing. If you're a program manager, perhaps you make a bunch of wishes that you need to talk to these people. Well, perhaps if you're a program manager, you will be out of job at that point. But if you're an engineering leader or a product manager who needs to talk to finance, needs to talk to marketing and others, you make a bunch of wishes early in the morning, and then they get fulfilled throughout the day without having to a long list of missed calls that roll over to the following day. I think this would be huge. Imagine you have all that process that is very inefficient today versus, hey, I want to talk to Frank. Frank, I want to talk to you for 10 minutes as soon as possible. Frank looks at it and say, okay. It gives you okay, or says, I'm busy. Okay. And now that happens at the right moment for both. We get connected. And we don't need that on the calendar. It's going to be a fluid way of working that adapts to the priority of the day. Your communications adapt to the priority of the day rather than you sticking to a predefined plan that you created last week that today clashes with the priority of the day, the firefight of the day. And now you need to rush decisions for the things that matter while you are moving blocks around and try to reschedule and negotiate slots with people that you're not longer able to talk to today. So there's some huge gains that may come from a change of paradigm. And the biggest challenge is going to be inertia. So nudging will play a big role.
There's actually a question that's kind of aligned with that. The other question that I see here is that if you're simply having a bad day, can you slow the amount of serendipity in the day that the system is going to inject?
So the good news of this solution that we built is it reacts to your telemetry. So if you set yourself as do not disturb, you're not going to be connected. You may have your phone silent, face down. We know that the phone is not a viable channel for you to talk. You may block your calendar for a certain amount of time, and now others will not serendipitously get connected with you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And the last question that I saw here was the management of all of this. The platform, the program manager's AI, does it report to an AI director, program director?
Well,
different levels of HR involved, I can see.
That's an interesting one. It does not, right? It would report to line of business leaders and operational, probably to the COO, and that will appreciate the streamlined operations. But there is going to be, especially with GPT and the hallucinations that it comes with, there must be some validation, right? The GPT, even if you feed GPT or any other large language model all the information that they need to build a project plan, they don't have enough context and to manage people understand effectively how long it would take for a certain person to build 2,000 lines of code. So there is going to be a project oversight and program oversight anyway, especially because of the hallucinations in the next few years. But the burden of project and program oversight is going to be so much less because you don't have to expedite at this point. AI optimizes expediting your project for you. Keep saying product, sorry.
I think you've answered all the questions for the moment.
Okay. Time check. Well, we can, if there's no other questions, we can close it a little bit earlier. And don't forget to follow us if you've enjoyed what we've been discussing today. We will do more of these. And I want to emphasize that whatever we share here is usually not curated content, but it's the result of our own experience and journey. So it's kind of unique content that we always try to put out and share with our audience rather than curate somebody else's content. So it's usually 100% original. Okay. Thank you very much for attending. I'm humbled and very appreciative of your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.